This is Ivna, and we're talking about the assertive script that you need to have hard conversations, to make hard conversations easy and smooth, and also increase your influence so that you can get what you want, but also move the conversation forward in a positive way. And this applies for all sorts of conversations, from hard conversations, someone does something you're unhappy with, when you want to give someone feedback, you want to make an ask, when someone hurts your feelings. This is a fantastic script when you have conflict, when you have a disagreement. This is the basis of the assertive communication in hard conversations. And it's super easy. It's literally 4 steps. If you understand the essence, which is these 4 basic steps, it's going to change your life. And I want to share this script with you because it took me forever to learn this script. I only learned this script in my 30s. If I had learned this in my 20s, it would have been a game changer for me in my career, in my ability to make myself heard, to influence other people. It helps you not come across as difficult and aggressive and like you're complaining a lot and you're not collaborative. This is actually a very easy collaborative process. Are you ready to hear about this assertive script? And before I get into it, let me invite you to join my newsletter. My mission is to help people advocate for themselves, for their ideas, and for others at work. I believe that everybody has the right to learn how to become their own best advocates, because no one will be a better advocate for yourself as you are, because you know who you are, you know what you want, you know how to defend things for yourself, as long as you have the skills. But often we're not taught these things, and that's why I'm here to bring these skills to you. All right, let's talk about this 4-step script. And this script was originally developed by cognitive psychologists, in particular, Professor Gordon Bauer and Sharon Anthony Bauer. It's called the DESC script. The DESC script stands for describe, D, E, express, S, specify, C, conclude. Let me break this down for you. Number 1, describe the situation. This is about getting on the same page with the other person. You need to describe the situation in a very factual, straightforward way. This is something that's observable and that other people are likely to agree with, because it's so matter of fact. So this is about getting on the same page about, hey, this is the situation. It's like when you're telling a story, the first part of the story is the context. Oh, we were in this meeting and you said this. It's got to be specific. It's got to be non-judgmental. It has to be really simple and factual. And ideally, we focus on one moment in time, one situation, and say, hey, in this situation, this is what happened. Or if you want to repeat, say, in the last 3 meetings on this topic, this thing happened. Or on this specific project where we had this timeline for delivery, you delivered on this date. So we're not giving judgment here. We're not saying you're right, you're wrong. We're just simply explaining the situation in a way that the other person is likely to agree with. That's why it has to be super specific. And it's not about describing anything about the other person or their intention. This is not you're wrong, you're unfair, you're mean, you're disrespectful, none of that. It's simply an observation of the behavior without any emotions at this point in time. It's the context. If you're watching a film, the context is simply the context. It's like this person lives in this house and this person goes to school every day and then they have this meeting every day. That's all it is. What's the situation? Where was it? What happened? Just in terms of the actual observable facts. You're not going to say here in the describe the situation, you're so inconsiderate, you're non-dependable, full of judgment. You're not going to say that. You're going to say, I've noticed that you delivered the report past the deadline. And I've also noticed that it still contained errors. Okay. And you can say, hey, this error here, you can go as specific as you'd like. But that's purely context. There's no judgment here. The second step of this script, after you describe the context, the situation, is to express. This is about expressing how you feel about the situation. This is about expressing a bit of the implications for you or for others in the team. Expressing is about you and not about the other person. That's the most important thing you need to understand. The biggest mistake that people make in this phase is the accusation, the blaming. You were disrespectful. You were mean. You were inconsiderate. You hurt me. You hurt my career. You did this. You did that. There's no you in expressing. In the express phase, there's I, no, not you, because this is all about you and how that situation or that behavior affected you or your team or your reality or your feelings. It's about how it impacted you because that's your world and you can't attribute that to someone else. So you talk about the situation and you're talking about, okay, the interface between that situation and you resulted in something for you. And that's what you're trying to describe to other people so that they understand your perspective on how that behavior affected you, because otherwise they just don't know. So you're going to express your situation. You're not going to say, I feel overwhelmed when I don't have enough time to work on my project because of the input from you came 2 days late. I feel disrespected. I feel overwhelmed. I feel confused. That is the second part, is expressing your side of the equation. It affects me because of this. Me, I, myself. That's what the express phase is all about. The third part of this equation, of this script, is to specify. This is by far the most assertive part of this script. And most of us don't use this. What do we do when we're unhappy? We blame others, say, you did this, and we leave it at that. We just complain. We tell people what we don't want to observe, what we don't like in the negative with the negative words, and then we expect them to change behavior. But that's not how it works. You need to specify what you want. You need to specify your ask. So important. Whenever there's something that you don't like about what someone else did, once you've given them context and given them your perspective on how that impacts you, you have to make an ask. And this ask has to be positively framed. This ask is not, don't interrupt me anymore. This ask has to be positively framed. This ask is what you want the other person to do differently. What behavior do you want them to have, to adopt in a new type of situation that's going to impact you in a positive way? You need to educate people about what you want and not have this expectation that people know what the impact of their actions are on you and that they know what you want. We have to tell them in a very direct, clear, non-judgmental way. Make your ask. Always make an ask. Always invite people to do something differently based on what you want them to do. But it's got to be a request. It's got to be an invitation. Ask for that behavior change that you would like and be specific. And this is not a laundry list either. And this has to be something actionable and specific that they know exactly what to do once they're done with this conversation. So if you say, don't disrespect me or anyone, people don't understand that because respect and disrespect is such an individual thing. It can be interpreted in 1,000 ways. It's too generic. You need to think about this step before you say it. Before you have this conversation, you need to really consider what you want the person to do. In fact, this whole script revolves around this one part, which is what do you want them to do differently? Once you figure out this part, this is the number one part that you have to think about. What is your specified request? What do you want them to do differently? Once you have this, then you work on the rest of the script. The script is going to guide you in the conversation. You don't have to read it line by line, but it's going to help you in a moment where you're caught off guard, where the emotions are heightened, where there's conflict, to be able to have a productive conversation. because you know the steps, you know the blueprint to a productive conversation. And this is a key part. You need to know what you want. You need to know how to specify what you need to ask for. You're not going to say, don't do this, don't interrupt me, or could you stop being late all the time? That sounds very judgmental and it's negative. It's late. Don't be late. That is the negative spin on it. Instead, if you say, you please be on time, that is better than please don't be late. Because we tend to focus on the words that we receive. If the words that we receive are the negative, don't do this, then we tend to fixate on that. Oh yeah, that's what I need to do, be late. So you want to tell people exactly what you want them to do, which is be on time, not be late. Could you send me the report 3 days ahead of the deadline going forward? That's way more specific, right? So the more specific you are, the more likely that the person is going to do what you ask them to do. When they don't do what you ask them to do, it's not because they're not wanting to be collaborative, they're not wanting to help you, that they don't care about you. It's simply because your ask is too generic, too broad, too vague, and not memorable enough for them, not specific enough. So you need to make sure that your ask is very clear, very specific, narrow, one actionable item that they know exactly what to do to make you happy. Because if they want to help you and they want to collaborate with you, they need to at least know, and they're not going to know how to come back to you. Most people don't know how to say, hey, can you clarify? What exactly do you want? If you say something generic, they're going to take that and not know what to do with it. They're not going to act on it. And you're going to think that they're just disrespectful again, that they don't care about you, that they don't want to collaborate with you, which is not the case. So we have to take responsibility for this communication. Once you make your ask, that's the third part of the script. The fourth part is to conclude it. And conclude is about consequences. Outcomes is also about consequences. So this last part of the script is about expressing the consequences if the person chooses to accept your invitation or not. Generally, we want to start with a positive consequence. If they choose to accept your invitation, remember that your invitation was framed positively, not negatively, then you want to explain the positive consequences of them accepting your invitation. You're trying to get buy-in here from them. You're giving them a reason to want to collaborate with you beyond just keeping you happy. That's part of the negotiation. So this is the point where you say, that way we can all collaborate well as a team, or that way we can make sure that we get the project on time for everyone involved. That way, whatever the positive benefit is for you, for them, for the team, for the customer, for the company, this is all about trying to get them to buy in and want to say yes to your invitation, to your request. The consequences can be anything that's positive. It increases the productivity, increases the project quality, performance, creation, the relationship you have with them, whatever it is, you can share that consequence. And ideally, it's positive. But if you've tried the positive, sometimes you have to share negative consequences as well. So you could do that. You also want to make sure that you reach an agreement in this phase. Get the person to answer, to say if they agree or not, if they're going to do it or not, so that you can enter a negotiation if needed and confirm the next steps. For example, you could say, that way we can deliver on time, or that way we'd all work better together. Does that work for you? Is that okay? Great. Now you have an answer. Now you know if they're on board with your request, and then you can follow up. Or if they're not, which means you have to enter negotiations, which means you weren't convincing enough. But now you know at least, and you can ask questions to investigate why they disagree with you, why they don't want to accept that invitation. It's up to you to continue that process. But this initial script is going to help you position your thinking in a logical, successful script that's going to help you navigate through those hard conversations when you're upset, when other people are upset, when there's tension in the air and you're not getting anywhere. Even before it gets to that, just use the script. Use a script to ask for something, to resolve a difference or a conflict. Use the script. There's so many great benefits for this assertive script. Remember, DESC, describe the situation and the behaviors observed in a very non-judgmental, factual way, in such a way that they would agree with what you shared. Number 2, express your situation, your feelings, the problem, the impact of their behaviors on you and on others. S, specify your request. Say what you want. What do you want them to do differently? And frame it in terms of what you want them to do, not what you don't want them to do. And then C, consequences. Express the consequences if they choose to accept or not accept your invitation to change their behavior. What will be the consequences? There should be no surprises here for them. Get an agreement. Do you agree? All good or not? That way you know what the next step is for you in this conversation, in this negotiation. Those are the 4 steps. It doesn't take a lot of time. And I encourage you to think about something that you want to tell someone. Maybe it's a conversation that triggers you a little bit, leaves you a little bit uncomfortable, it's a bit scary. And think about how you would place it in this framework. Describe, explain, specify, and conclude with the consequences. So let me give you an example. Let's say you are in a bit of a conflict and you decide to describe the situation and you say, I've noticed in the last 3 team meetings that you've interrupted me when I was sharing a thought. You're describing the situation. Then you express your feelings and your perspective. I felt really upset because I missed the opportunity to contribute my ideas in the meeting. Then you specify and ask, going forward in these meetings, could you make sure that I complete my perspective before you share yours? And I'd be happy to then pull you back in when you have something to share as well. And then you conclude, that way we can work more effectively together. How does that sound to you? Can we do that? Okay, great. Perfect. We're done. This script will help you have productive, proper, non-angry conversations. It'll help put your nerves and calm your nerves, calm other people down, and help move through this negotiation in a very peaceful way. That's all it is. It's super simple, but it makes such a huge difference. So go and check it out. And if you like this, and if you want tips like this coming directly into your inbox with an actual summary that you can read every single week, then subscribe to the Assertive Way newsletter. You can go to assertiveway.com/newsletter, and you will get for free these tips every single week in your inbox. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you, and I will see you in the next one. Bye for now.